Hey, it's the Ultimate Handyman. Today I'm going to show you this amazing Halloween costume I built, and I've been wanting to build one of these for years, and I finally did it. So I'm going to show you step by step how I put this all together, and I can't wait to show you. This was so much fun. So first off, I want to show you some of the materials I used to build this costume. A lot of this stuff I had laying around the house. So I've used a Rubbermaid tote bin, an old Halloween mask, and a trench coat that I had laying around, some PVC pipe and fittings, a styrofoam head, and some 3-inch flexible drainage pipe. So the first thing I did was cut out the opening for my body to fit through in the tote bin. I used some tin snips to start, and then I finished it off with a razor knife just to make it a nice smooth edge. So after I got the opening where I liked it, I bent this 1/4-inch steel rod to reinforce the back edge of the tote bin. I used some super glue to glue it down. For the legs of my costume, I used the 3-inch drainage pipe. So I just basically bent the drainage pipe in a candy cane shape and then started stuffing them in an old pair of jeans that I had laying around. For the feet of the costume, I used these red shoes, and they actually fit perfectly in the 3-inch pipe. And to attach them to the pipe, I just used a 1-inch lath screw. I used the last 2 lace holes on the shoe to put my screw through and attach it to the pipe. I was trying not to wreck the shoes. To finish off the legs, I attached the jeans to the shoes using some safety pins because I didn't want the pant legs to ride up the pipe. And I knew there was going to be a lot of little kids wanting to grab the feet and move them around. And I also had a lady, a very drunk lady, grab the legs and like bend them straight up, even after I told her not to. But the pants and legs held together really well. So the frame for the costume is just some 3/4-inch PVC pipes and a bunch of different fittings. This was kind of a trial and error for me. I didn't really quite know how big to make it, so I just started off with this shape. So to make the head turn on the costume, I had to drill out the 3/4-inch PVC T at the top of the frame, and then I also drilled out the bottom PVC pipe on the frame, not all the way through because I wanted the pipe that I inserted to kind of rest on the bottom of that frame. So to keep the shaft in place, I used a 3/4-inch PVC coupler that I cut one side out of. I sanded the stop out of the center of it, and that way I can snap it on to the 3/4-inch pipe, and then I just drilled a hole in the center and put another lath screw to hold it in place. Yeah, having the head turn on the costume really made this thing come alive. A lot of people even told me that they thought there was a person behind me, like controlling it. So to connect the gorilla's body to the tote bin, I ended up adding some more PVC piping that lined up with the corners of the tote bin. So to attach the PVC piping to the tote bin, I needed to add these wooden dowels into the PVC, so I had a good anchoring point for my screw to connect to. So I'm adding some super glue to each one of these dowels, and then I'm going to be pounding them into the opening. I attached the PVC frame to the Rubbermaid tote bin using some 1-inch lath screws and fender washers. I did end up changing the screws out for longer ones because I added a bunch of bracing and some leather belts so I could strap it to my body, and I wanted to make sure everything was nice and strong. The next thing I did was start to work on the arms. I just used the 3-inch flexible drain pipe that I used for the legs, and I screwed everything down with some more fender washers and lath screws. After test fitting the costume to my body, I realized that this back piece of the Rubbermaid tote bin was in the way, so I ended up cutting it out. I added some foam to the frame to make it more comfortable when I'm walking around, and I just attached it with some zip ties. So in order for me to control the head movement from inside the tote bin, I needed to add a lever arm and a cable to the shaft that controls the head movement. So I took a PVC T and I cut the back out of it. I attached it with some screws, and I also added a longer PVC pipe so it would give me more leverage when I'm pulling on the cable. I used some crimps on each side of the cable to hold it in place so it can pull on the lever. And then the cable runs through some PVC 90s, and it makes a complete loop around the tote bin and around the back of the frame. After I cut the back section of the Rubbermaid toe pin out, I realized I needed some more support because there's a lot of pressure on that connection point where the screw goes into the back frame. So I made these aluminum brackets that attach in the corner. I used some super glue to glue it to the toe pin, and I attached them with a couple rivets and fender washers to hold them in place. So now I'm going to start working on the trench coat. I needed a way to attach it to the toe pin to kind of hide that gap. So what I used was some Velcro just glued on with some super glue gel. I attached the Velcro to the trench coat using some hot glue. So after I got the jacket fitted up and the Velcro attached, I noticed there's a straight line that doesn't quite look natural. So what I did is I glued a piece of Velcro to the Rubbermaid toe pin, and then I glued a piece on the jacket. And underneath the Velcro in the jacket, I put a piece of aluminum because I found that when I was attaching it to the toe pin, the jacket would just curl open and it wasn't holding it in place. So the aluminum keeps it nice and stiff, and then that helps the illusion to where the jacket comes down where my legs come out. So to make this costume even more epic, I wanted to make the mouth open and close. So I added a string that attaches to the mouth. It goes through the shaft, down the foam, into a 1/4 inch piece of drip tubing. I attached it with some zip ties and hot glue that runs around into the toe pin. I used a piece of mister tubing that goes over that, and then I attached the string to a piece of dowel rod, and that makes the mouth open and close. So I wanted the eyes, the nose, and the mouth of the gorilla to glow red. So I added some LED lights to the foam head, and I just attached them with hot glue. And while I was gluing everything down, I noticed that when you put hot glue next to the red light, it actually acts as like a fiber optic cable. So anywhere you put glue, the light will kind of flow through the glue and turn it red. I attached the battery pack to the foam head with some hot glue, and I think this effect really worked out perfectly. Kind of looks creepy with the foam head. Here's what it looks like with the gorilla mask on and the mouth opening and closing. To attach the gorilla's head to the foam mannequin head, I used these sheetrock anchors and a bunch of hot glue injected into the hole. Next, I attached the mask to the foam head. I pre-drilled some holes through the mask, and I attached it with 2 sheetrock screws. So I bought some gorilla hands on Amazon, and I thought they were going to be a little bit more rigid than they are. So I ended up having to stuff the fingers and the palm with a bunch of paper to hold it into its hand shape. And then for the wrist and arm of the glove, I used a Pringles can, and that actually worked out perfectly. I was able to fit the entire can in the glove, and then I just glued the edge of the fabric to the Pringles can. Now it's time to connect the hand to the arm of the gorilla. So I'm going to stick the Pringles can and glove in the pipe. It fits perfect. And then I'm going to attach it with some screws. To attach the fingers, I took some hot glue and glued each finger to the Rubbermaid bin. And the hot glue actually worked really well. I was kind of worried it was going to be not strong enough, but it held up after 2 nights of wearing the costume. So next I needed a way to connect the costume to my body. So what I did was I bought some large belts at my thrift store. These were size 50 plus belts, and I modified them to fit in the costume. I actually cut them in half, and I screwed them to the rear frame and connected it to the Rubbermaid connection. The bottom belt I connected to just the PVC rear frame because I didn't want the belt to interfere with the cable, and this system worked out really well. Now I'm going to be installing the legs onto the Rubbermaid toe pin. I actually changed the color of the pants because I thought it contrasted better with the gorilla. I ended up using some safety pins to hold down the legs of the pants to the shoes. I used a single lath screw with a fender washer screwed through the pipe, through the pants, and into the lip of the Rubbermaid bin. So the final thing I did to the gorilla was I added a bunch of stuffing to the legs of the gorilla, the arms, and around the shoulders. I also put 1 large pillow in the chest area, and that actually worked really well to make it look like the gorilla had a big, strong, like muscular upper body. And it also acted as a cushion for my back while I was wearing the costume. To get into the costume is super easy. You just step in to the tote bin slot, and then you pull it up like you're putting on a pair of pants. When I get the costume up to about where my hips are, I need to bend my legs out to the side to get it to go over my hips. And then once that happens, I can connect the lower belt. Sometimes the belt gets hung up between the tote bin and my leg, then I gotta fish it through. It's kind of a tight fit. But once you get that belt on, the upper belt is really easy to install. And then once you get that hooked up, you can let go and dance around, and the costume won't fall off. So I want to give you a shot of the inside of the tote bin. You can see how the belt is strapped up, and nobody can see the belt while I'm wearing the costume. It's hidden in the tote bin. And the lower belt you can't see because I had a little bit too much Halloween candy this year. So I installed a drink holder in between the costume's legs, and this actually worked perfectly. I just riveted it on. It's a spatula holder that my wife had, and she actually didn't want to use it, and it worked out perfect for the drink cup. I used a paint can lid to kind of raise up the glass, the beer glass, and it worked really good. I tested it out last night and it was great. It's also good for holding your wallet and your phone. So when I'm in the costume, I'm using my right arm to control the mouth and my left hand to move the head side to side. And to take the costume off is super simple. You just undo the belts and it falls right off, just like you're taking off your pants. So to test the costume out, we went to our kids' school for the Halloween festival, and it was a huge hit with everyone there. The kids loved it. All the kids were totally confused on how the gorilla was moving, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed seeing the look on their faces. After the kids' Halloween festival, we went to a concert in our local area, and I got to dance around in the costume to the music, and it was a lot of fun making it come alive. And everybody there loved it. I had people coming up to me taking pictures, and people were just blown away. They were confused on how I made it. Some people thought there was a second guy in the costume moving the head back and forth, and it was just a lot of fun and a blast to be there. I wanted to mention one more thing. If you're making a costume like this, make sure you wear a totally different color shirt than your gorilla or whatever creature you're making, so you get a nice contrast between the two of you. So before you end this video, I wanted to ask you for a huge favor. Can you please subscribe to my channel and share this video with everybody that you know? I put a lot of effort into this video, making the costume and editing the content, and I would really appreciate your support. And while you're at that, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I post my latest how-to videos. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you the next project. And oh yeah, don't forget to check out my other videos right here at the end.